was our family. The church was the place that we would come to. That's what we had. That's really all that we really had was the fellowship that we had in our churches. And so we look forward to coming to Tuesday night services, and we look forward to coming to our Friday night. At that point, it was Tuesday and Friday, and that's how we always knew that it was fast day, because it was Tuesdays and Fridays is when we normally fast. And so we all had Sunday morning service, which was our Sunday school, followed by our morning worship service, followed by our 6:30 YPWW, followed by our evening worship. And so that's what we did. And we look forward to those days of being able to come together with one another. And I'm old school. I came up in an era, where that's what we did. And so, certainly I spend time with my family and so forth. But I tell you, when I come to the house of the Lord, I look forward to seeing every one of you all, because over these 25, 30 plus years, I have been seeing your face. I feel like I'm really related to you, because we've been spending so much time together. You know what I'm saying? And that was important. And many of our younger generations now don't have that same feeling anymore. And they're looking for fellowship. They're looking for relationship, sometimes in all the wrong places. And that's why when they do come to the church, this piece becomes increasingly important, because they want to feel like someone really cares about them. Do you wonder why people spend so much time on Facebook, going back and forth, talking about whatever they're talking about? Because they want someone to know that I'm valuable, I'm important. And so they'll put any opinion out there. Sometimes, like, you don't need to respond to every single thing that's on the line, but everybody wants to be, validated somehow. And so let's see here. We're going to get track. All right, we'll just start there for now. I'm not sure what number that is, but we'll go there. And it just kind of talked about, front door churches, that people enter through the front doors. And there are other ways that people do come to the house of the Lord. But at any rate, part of that has a lot to do with people wanting to feel valued. They want to feel that someone cares about who I am. And that's really what it is. And it's the same when they come to the church. They're coming sometimes because you invited them, and they found that they've gone to the end of their rope with certain things. And that's when people tend to turn to the Lord, is when they're in trouble. Right. When things aren't going well on the job, when their children are giving them, issues, that's when they want to come to the house of the Lord. They things going on well, most time they're not gonna come. Okay, so people are going to enter at the front doors. They're going to enter through mostly that front door. They will come to the worship service. Most of the churches that are in the U.S. tend to be front door churches. And sometimes, they may connect with the church through a ministry. Sometimes, there's some churches offer like Alcoholics Anonymous ministries. They may offer food programs and those, after school programs, those kinds of things. That there's a percentage of those that do that. But the most people who come tend to come through that front doors. And so that becomes, to me, a area that we must focus on, is how people are greeted in the front door. That we as a church become what we would call an effective host. That we're effective at what people see and hear when they come to our church for the first time. And so that basically means that the way we invite people to the church and effective front doors are those that have a worship service that's well presented. People, they would used to come to Christ Temple because they knew the music was on and popping, as they say. And so that brought people in, or the plays. Christ Temple was known for plays. I mean, we did more plays than I'm like, really? And so people would just come just to see how that was going to be. They said a pastor was above average preacher. Unfortunately, people now, you got to be on and pop. You got to be like, because people, they're looking for that. And so the other is that we have a system in place that actually welcomes people to the house of God. long story short. And then a way for them to become involved in the ministry. We covered this last week. The other one, we'll go on. And again, if then the other part is just 10%. This is the side door. Side door are those that connect people through the ministries and so forth, other than the worship services. So sometimes there are some churches who offer adult ed classes. Sometimes they're offering other kind of ministries. You know, sometimes we do like a Thanksgiving basket or Christmas kind of things. Or, you know, we talked about the fair we had outside, the health fair. That was a way we had connected to people. Our vacation Bible school was a big one. In fact, one of the young men who years ago came here as a kid, ended up staying in the church, actually became a minister. We need to follow up with him because I haven't seen him in quite some time. So let's follow up with him. But he brought his mom, he brought those to the church, but it was through Vacation Bible School. So that's more of a side door. That's the smallest piece. But again, at the end of the day, it has all that needs to be effective. Okay, we'll move on. And then it says a healthy side door is one that really values evangelism, which means that outreach and meeting people's needs. Now, I think that some of the side door ministries are also going to be extremely important given where we are with this pandemic. I think we're going to have to do a little bit more. I'm actually starting a support group, a grief support group to work with individuals who are dealing with the losses of family members and a whole lot of other things. And so there's about 4 of us that are going to start a support group. It's not going to be connected to necessarily a jurisdiction. It's just there are 4 of us that are from both jurisdictions, and we're just going to do that because we're trained counselors. And so we want to be able to offer service to the various ones that may need help dealing with some of those losses. And then the other is to have, you know, an evangelism piece that is also appropriate and that's going to reach out in ways. Some of the ideas that they have come up with are things like self-help groups, fellowship groups, social services, Bible studies, all of those. And then then the other one for churches that are really, really big, they function on a cell group, which is a small group kind of ministry. If a church has 2,000 members, it's really hard to do that. So a lot of them have the smaller 20, 30 groups of people that meet on a Wednesday or meet on for about those kinds of things, because again, people need relationship. Believe it or not, every one of us, I don't care how much of a loner we call ourselves to be, everybody needs somebody. Mother Juan.
Can I just say something quick? I know you're alive. I heard this morning where some of the little kids are having problems because they can't interact with their friends at school anymore. So in the beginning, we were talking about a lot of people are having some issues. So even the little children, we don't think about, they are, but they cannot get close to their friends. Yeah. So if they are, you know the adults are too.
That's difficult. And we really are going to have to really pray for our children because they're just not used to this at all. They really aren't. There's only so much. And see, what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think they're going to get tired of this electronic stuff. But again, we have fed them a steady diet of it for how long to keep them quiet. Well, now they have to try to use it to learn. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I think they're going to need to be in an environment where they can at least get some, back and forth. And then, we've got to have people who are committed. It's not, this is the piece, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, and we can go to the next slide. The problem that we have is we delegate so much of this to the people here. We can't delegate all this work to the man standing behind the pulpit. It can't be. Each one of us has some responsibility. That's the challenge I'm saying to all of us, that we have a responsibility. Maybe you aren't the Bible teacher. Maybe you aren't the Sunday, but you can do something. Am I right? There's something I think each of us can do in our own ways. God has gifted us with all kinds of gifts that can be utilized. The importance of, and here's something they talk about is follow-up. This piece is critical. Follow-up of those first-time visitors. Your church visitor retention rate, they say, is highest within 48 hours. That's like 2 days. So if someone showed up here on Sunday and no contact has been made with that person within the 48 hours, chances of maybe coming back may not be. But getting a call, getting a letter, something like that, they said you have the best rate of retaining them. Now, the retention rate of a first-time person is 34% for second-time visitors, 51% third time, and 78%, which means that it increases with the more contacts that have been made with this particular person. So if this person is coming back for the second time, if the person coming back for the third time, chances are they are going to actually become members of that church because they've come back the third time. They're seeking for something. But sometimes we lose them in that first group. We lose them because no contact has been made. This was a stat that was quoted by Herb Miller that said 85% of the guests return if they're visited in 36 hours, 68 if in 70, that's like 3 days, 15% in 7 days. So follow-up, saints, is an important piece of this, is following up with that first-time visitor. Finding out, we hope you enjoyed the service. We would love for you to come back, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And so it all goes back to relationship. I think this generation, more than a lot of others, really need relationship. And unfortunately, they're trying to get it in the wrong places by doing it online. I can say what I want online. I can be who I want online, and no one knows me. But that person, one-on-one relationship, perhaps to me, is one of the most important pieces of, to me, winning someone to Christ, or bringing them into the house of the Lord. I mean, you can't, how am I going to say this? You can't give a baby 3 bottles back to back to back. That's too much. You can't give a child, who's 2 months old, and I know some of these parents start trying to feed these babies solid food too early, too soon. I have adopted this little boy. He's my grandson has a girlfriend that has a baby. He's about 5 months old. He's the sweetest little old something or other. And so we were at their house, and he wanted this drumstick, this chicken bone. I'm like, boy, he's got to be a little older because he got some teeth. And I guess he thought he could eat. All he could do on that thing was suck that chicken. I started laughing, and he had it everywhere. He was trying to do the best with it he could, and then finally it was in his lap, and then finally it went on the ground. I said, "Done. You're not going to have that, little buddy." But so you can't give them too much. So here's the thing that's important for us, all of us, to remember: when company comes to our house, we get ready for the company. How many of y'all have ever had company at your house that actually came maybe and stayed at your house? Okay, Sister Edie, what did you do to get ready for your company?
You had to clean the whole house up.
Girl.
Clean the whole house. Wash,
Right.
Make sure the linen was changed. And fresh towels. Grocery store. Make sure there's food in the house.
That's right. And even sometimes if I know people are coming to visit, I may have left my shoes in the front room. I go pick up my shoes because I'm having company for a couple hours. I just got to make sure that, the bathrooms are cleaned and that I got towels out for them and all of that. And I try to make sure I have all my dishes washed. My mother was a stickler for dishes in her. She wouldn't say sink. She said her zinc. I don't keep dishes in my zinc. I said, okay, Mama. But we get ready for them, which means then that we have the bathrooms done, the trash cans, the floors, everything, which means that the house of God also has to reflect that as well, because company is coming.
Yes.
When we're expecting company, we do extra things to welcome that company. Now, a visitor that's going to come to the door and they're gone, but when someone is actually coming to be a part of that, they have to feel like they're welcome to our church. So this effort is expended in prep for our guests. We want our houses to look good. So why would we spare, no effort when it comes to the house of God? So hospitality. It's hyphenated. Hospitality. Oh, it's not just the lady sitting there wearing her black outfit and her yellow flower. We think it's the lady that's suited up here. She sits back there. She brings water. She's got a yellow flower on. That's hospitality. No, it's not. We have a hospitality department, but hospitality is defined as generous and friendly treatment of visitors and guests. Friendly and generous. Generous just means it's like way out there. We're just so excited. And so when new people come, we shouldn't be looking at them like they got a horn on their face. Like something wrong with them. I told y'all how I did my friends. They're my friends that asked, look, y'all act like I had a horn on the front of my head and all of this. I said, I'm new to Wisconsin. I don't know you all. Y'all looking at me like, who is that? I was kind of thin and cute and thought I could do a little few things. And they look at me like, I said, okay, fine. So hospitality means we're taking care of our guests and we anticipate. Here's the piece. Anticipate what their need might be. So if you walked into a church, you didn't know anyone, how would you feel? I've gone into some churches and, a lot of people know me because they've seen me in different places. But when I walk into church I've never been before, I don't come up to the front. I don't do none of that. A lot of the ushers might want to escort you. They say, why don't you? I said, okay, I'm okay right here. I know how to do that. But for a person who's really haven't been to church in a long time, they have no idea what's expected of them because this is their first time. And you all know how it is when you walk into a business or you walk into somewhere and you get this feeling that those people kind of, don't kind of. And I felt that I felt that a number of times when I've gone to various places when I was working full time, I would end up going to areas where there were very few African Americans, and I would be the only one. And you just get this feeling. I can't explain it, but I know it was not one that was friendly. I remember some years ago when I was working on my doctorate and I was driving back and forth to Madison. And I would end up driving back a lot of times late at night because my last class ended at 10. So I'm on the highway. And sometimes I would actually travel with my boss, and either I would drive or he would drive. And we would stop at this one McDonald's to get either coffee or soda or something to eat because we hadn't eaten. And so he never said anything to me years later after we finished our doctorate. And I don't even know how it came up, but it came up in a conversation. And so we were talking, and I told him, I said, when we went to this McDonald's in Lake Mills, I said, did you notice how they looked at us? And he said, yeah, I did. He said, I didn't say anything. I said, I didn't say anything either. I said, but I knew, you know what I'm saying? We had this weird look to it. You felt kind of fun, you know what I'm saying? People can sense how you feel about them. You don't have to ever say a word. And I had to ask the Lord, I said, Lord, please help my eyes. Please try to sanctify my eyes, because I have a tendency, Sister Carol, when I see strange stuff, my eyes are very expressive. And I have to pull my head down because I'm like, what in the world? Because I know my eyes, they will just go that way, and I have to really work on that. So people can sense whether or not. And so hospitality, getting ready for company is much more than a psychological process, sociological process. It is something that we should do because of God's grace toward us, because God welcomed us with our nasty self. God, put his hand on us when we were not right. I don't care how good we thought we were, we still weren't clean enough for God. And so when we extend welcome to our visitors, we really are extending God's hand. We're letting them know. and we're demonstrating this love and care of God himself. We are like God's representatives. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, we hear people talk about the Bible. If we are the only Bible people gonna read, what is it gonna look like? Ooh, yeah. And so somebody welcomed each of us to church, okay? And we extended a hand of welcome to visitors, believers, and unbelievers. When we do that, we are extending God's hand. That's what we're supposed to do. We never have gotten too clean, too whatever, that we can't reach down. There was something about, that you reach down and have to pull a person up. Maybe you weren't down wallowing in that kind of mud, but you was in some kind of mud. And somebody had to look at you and say you were worth it. That song by this young man, he says, you thought I was worth saving. You thought I was worth keeping. You came along. He thought I was worth it. No matter how much sin you had been in, what you had been with, whatever, but he thought you were worth it. So he sent his son to die. And that's why we have to be able to show that same kind of love to those that are coming to the house of the Lord. Okay? So, visitor or guest. We need to start seeing them as guests. Visitors often come unexpected and they just show up. Guests have been expected. Now, most folks are going to call and say, I want to stay with you. I have had some that was the last minute, but thank God my house was ready. But for the most part, the guests, we know they're coming. Okay? And visitors are expected to leave. Guests are expected to stay, and visitors come one time. Guests are expected to return again. All right? It's kind of hard when you have unexpected folk to come. You're not ready for them. But when we know they're coming, we should expect guests every Sunday. Every Sunday. Because we don't know what's going to drive people to the house of the Lord. So, are we ready for company? It says churches spend a significant amount of time getting ready for their companies. It would involve preparing an attractive worship service, not hit and miss, a way to organize teams of greeters. We had greeters, cleaning the church. Yeah. The worst thing you can do is go. I went to this one church to a meeting and I was like shocked. I was shocked because the church I went to, I had expected a little bit more from this facility. And I walked in there. I was a little afraid to go to the bathroom just because I was coming up the steps to go into the church and there was like dust bunnies everywhere. And I'm like, this is your state meeting. This is not in Wisconsin, y'all. Okay? Just so y'all go. I saw them, these dust bunnies was all on the step. I'm like, the church looked dilapidated. And I'm like, and this person, they fly around here all pressed and all, I know who these people are, at least how they portray themselves. So when I walked into that church, I'm like, oh my goodness. And then they wanted, they were going to have some kind of reception at the end. I was like, oh. And they had invited our national mother. I said, okay, dokie. So the other is, you got your greeters, your facility is clean, smelling fresh. Sometimes you're offering refreshing snacks. That's these big churches because, they're waiting to get into a service number 2 or service number 3. And then most of all, we are creating a welcoming environment that people feel like we are. Our church is not that big, it's not that small, but at the end of the day, people need to feel that they're welcome when they walk in that door in special ways. And then you got to be careful with who you have on the door as well. Your ushers got to be careful who that person is. Your greeter if you got somebody that don't know how to greet people right, or you got an usher that's mean as a junkyard dog, you don't want them doing that. Go ahead, sit down. You don't want that. Because already that's created a negativity. We talked last week about some church, and I think Pastor said he had been the one where the church was so big, they had folks directing them where they could park.
Right.
Because if a person has to go hunt for a parking space, do you think they're gonna keep going around the block trying to find somewhere to park? Thank God we got a parking lot. But if I got to keep hunting, I'm like, I'm done with y'all. I went to Walgreens to get something, and I don't go to this particular Walgreens very often. They generally carry more African-American products, so I would usually go there. And so I go into the store, and I'm getting ready to get something, but I need a cart because I have a back issue, so I gotta have something to hold on to. And so I go in and I said, the clerk, I said, you all are out of carts. She says, well, maybe one's in the parking lot. Bye, Felicia. Gone. I walked my little happy self out that store, got in my vehicle, drove to another one. I'm gonna go look for a cart. I'm not going out to, really? Not me. You don't want my business. Okay. We're a friendly church. If you were to survey churches and ask them to list their strengths, almost everyone would include we're a friendly church. Okay, Christ Temple. I'm asking a question. Are we a friendly church?
I think so.
What family church?
Depends on who you ask. In my personal opinion, I say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Deacon Torrey was shaking his head no. What did you say?
Any prayer? Pray for me.
Sister Carol?
I mean, I think we are, but that's relative. You have to ask the people who've been here because they might have a different point of view.
Okay, Mother Swan?
As a person who is friendly, and I interact with people here, I would say yes, we are a friendly church. But the receiver, what do they want to receive what are they looking for to define friendly? How do they define friendly? But I think we are.
Most people who've been here for a long time would say yes.
Mhm.
Most
Yeah.
people would. They would. Yes.
I often heard through the years, not just 20 years,
I heard that
30
too,
years.
but I don't think never believed it. I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah. And I heard even lately, in the last 5 years, those that come, even guests or visitors, and they often say, when I came into the doors, I feel like it's a family environment type church, friendly, but it feels like family. It feels like, like I was accepted as I was like one of the family. I've heard that a lot with Christ Temple. A lot. That's one of the main things that
You felt like it's a family church.
Right, and I heard people say that as well as guests, and then became members. The reason why I became members because I feel like I was family. I was treated.
But you were part of family.
Exactly.
Okay.
I heard that other people had said that we are not friendly.
Okay. Deacon Mac, I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, I'm messing with you. Because you all transitioned from another ministry. So did you all feel friendly, or was it because you had known people from the other ministry that it was?
Well, let me just, I'm going to tell this story real quick. I came to Christ Temple, Nita's my goddaughter, she invited, I had to go through a transition, and I came to Christ Temple, and I taught in Christ Temple years ago.
Really?
See, there we go. See,
Take your mask off so I can see.
I was in Pastor Genesis' office getting new members class.
What happened to you?
Okay, hold on. Let me finish.
I don't think I was here then.
This is gonna be quick.
How old were you?
I came to Christ Temple and I sat where Sister David sat. Every time I came. And every time I came, I didn't feel what you're talking about.
Okay.
I didn't feel that, what you were talking about. Now I came to service and I would go get my cousin, my teacher from Pastor Genesis. And he used to always ask me, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know. You know, I go upstairs and nobody will say nothing to me, or nobody say hi or nothing like that,
It's
or
okay.
hello,
We'll finish it.
or whatever, you know, and
I'll just miss out.
it didn't happen.
Just think we get you.
It just didn't happen. That's after 6 of time. But now when I came back and we transitioned over,